Hello, it's a lovely good evening to those watching around Zambia and around the world. To present the news, my name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Our top stories in the news tonight: UPND risks failing to fulfill its promises due to overplanning, charges opposition UPPZ. President Hakainde Hichilema cautions local authorities against sabotaging government. Japanese ambassador urges the Zambian government to tackle KABWE mining pollution. In international news, RAILA ODINGA calls Kenya's election result a parody. And in sports news, Chess Federation of Zambia to ensure chess is active in schools.
Are you a business organization or an individual with a dream to register your presence in Zambia and around the world? Waste no time, because Camnet Television is offering an opportunity to sponsor any of the following programs: the main news, national matters, breakfast show, the verdict, partnership of greatness, economic briefcase, business and sports news. For more details, call following numbers. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Hello again, another news in detail. Kamwala Ward 5 councillor in Lusaka's Kawata constituency, Mainda Simata, has urged civic leaders to institute well-functioning neighborhood watch initiatives in their communities as one way of curbing theft, which has been on the rise of late. In an interview, Mr. Simata says his ward is one of the areas which is coming up with such an initiative, which will be working hand in hand with motorized and foot police patrols to beef up security in the community, especially at night. A number of break-ins have been recorded in Zambia, particularly in Lusaka, chief among them thefts of plasma television sets. More in this report.
Developing countries like Zambia still have a lot of work to do when it comes to improving their internal security, as citizens have been citing inadequate police patrols in communities, long distances to some police posts, and low staffing levels at some of these facilities. Some citizens feel that this has given leeway for criminals who have begun targeting certain communities to conduct break-ins and steal various household items. Latest is the break-in alleged to have occurred in Ilai community and other places.
All those things were in my bedroom. My TV is a cave. The lie, I could even travel outside the country. I would go 3 months. I would find the house intact. It was a block of flats.
Kulibe kota bila pafupi kutumembi ni usiku. Bamishkani ataki. Kulibe kota bila polisi iliko niabai. Iche kutali kuzingalume.
Kamwala Ward 5 councillor in Lusaka's Kawata constituency has become one of the latest communities on the way to setting up a well-organized neighborhood watch initiative, which will work with armed police officers to conduct motor and foot patrols. In an interview, Ward Councillor Mainda Simata says there is need for other civic leaders to ensure that such initiatives are replicated in their communities.
Because as you know, police does not have enough manpower or resources in terms of vehicles to do motorized patrols or even foot patrols. So we've come up with this neighborhood initiative, and what we are trying to do is to engage the community to take part in these patrols. But of course, such kind of operations will require resources. So we are going to be lobbying stakeholders so that we can have support from different kind of sectors, especially those that are based within our community of Kamwala, to ensure to say that the project of the neighborhood watch does not die a natural death, but can be sustained in the long run. Because at the end of the day, we are very cognizant of the fact that those that volunteer to be part of the neighborhood must be taken care of if this project is to survive.
Zambia by 2030 hopes to build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels, meaning that matters such as internal security should be strengthened. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Women for Change Executive Director Lumba Sianga has appealed to women in abusive marriages to report their spouses to the relevant institutions. Ms. Sianga notes that women are failing to report their abusive spouses for fear of losing breadwinners. She says reporting an abusive spouse does not always result in arrests, but sometimes counseling to live in harmony. Meanwhile, Zambia National Traditional Councillors Association Programs Manager Gordon Muchemwa is of the view that people should separate if they feel all attempts to save a relationship are exhausted without finding a solution. More in this report.
Lusaka's Chawama compound was last week Monday, 8th August 2022, beaten to death by a man she trusted and called her husband, leaving behind 3 children, among them an 8-month-old baby. According to the neighbors, the couple was in a habit of fighting whenever they had a marital dispute.
Most of the time, so
Women for Change Executive Director Lumba Siamba says the development makes a sad hearing, as it could have been avoided if the woman reported her husband to the relevant institutions. Ms. Sianga says most women are dying in silence, fearing that if they report their husband to the relevant institutions, they will be arrested or sent to prison.
It's not every case that will end up in court, you know. That's why women fear going to police to report. Some will be cancelled, they will be taken through marriage counseling to save their marriage. If it fails, then it goes to court and you can divorce. There's nothing wrong with divorcing on the basis that you are being abused. You can leave that marriage.
Women for Change Executive Director has since advised women in the country not to die in silence, but that if all means to reconcile a couple fails, better to live than to lose a life.
It's not good to remain quiet just for the sake of keeping that marriage. It will kill you. It's not good just to remain in marriage for the sake of your children, because eventually you can die and leave those children. So it's better to avoid that by reporting your abusive partner.
Meanwhile, Zambia National Traditional Councillors Association of Zambia says the old teachings where women were told that it is normal for a man to beat his wife should come to an end, and advises women to be change makers and report all form of physical abuse to the relevant institutions.
In olden days, our councillors used to tell women not to reveal what is happening in their homes because they wanted to be secretive. But this time what we are saying is, please come out in the open, because losing a life is not something that we should take lightly as a country or as individuals. So I'm urging the women out there, if you find yourself in an abusive marriage, please come out in the open. It is better you leave that marriage other than lose your life.
Gender-based violence has continued to be on the rise despite many institutions advocating for an end to GBV. The question that then one might ask is, what more needs to be done in order to end gender-based violence? Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
United Party for National Development UPND member Wene Hajombwa has urged the Zambia police to take an interest in questioning citizens who claim to know who was behind the spate of alleged gassing incidents of citizens that took place countrywide in 2020. In an interview, Mr. Hajombwa says one of those was Patriotic Front senior official Geoffrey Waliamwamba, also known as GBM, who allegedly made these remarks during a PF interactive forum. Meanwhile, the UPND member has officially handed over a letter to the office of the Inspector General requesting for the summoning of Mr. Walia for questioning. The country experienced a period of terror in 2020 where unknown individuals went round people's homes at night, spraying them with chemicals for a purpose which is not yet clear to date.
We've asked the police to invite him to help with investigations after he issued a statement telling the nation, sometime back in 2020, that he knows some collectors who were gassing us, right? He said that himself. And he further went on to say this information he can only give to some security forces. That's what he said. And for us, we believe he meant the police. That's why we are here today, just in case the police might have forgotten. We are here to remind them that there is somebody who can be a good witness over this issue, after he promised us that he will tell the nation on who was gassing the people of Zambia. And many families today want to know who was gassing them, including the people of Chingola, because it started from there. And the GBM was on record himself saying, I know them. Now, if today somebody opens his mouth, he says he knows them, why won't he become a good witness? So we laud to the police today, asking the IG to consider inviting Mr. Bwaria to come and give the statement, to come and give the information, if you want to call it, like he mentioned, to say, I'm ready to give information to the state. So the state is here now, and the people of Zambia await to hear from Mr. Bwaria on who was gassing.
United Prosperous and Peaceful Zambia UPPZ Secretary General Kondwani Sakala says the current administration risks failing to fulfill its promises to the Zambian people within its 5-year mandate due to its slow pace in implementing various policies. In an interview, Mr. Sakala asked that there is need for the United Party for National Development UPND administration to approach governance aggressively, unlike the status quo, which he says seems to be leading nowhere. Meanwhile, Republican Progressive Party RPP acting president Cassius Akapelwa has described as unfair the criticism from opposition political parties, stating that 1 year is not enough to predict that the UPND will fail in 5 years' time. More in this report.
Various opposition political parties have been throwing stones at the current administration, accusing them of overpromising the Zambian people during election campaigns, but doing little during its 1 year in office to show that these promises will be fulfilled by the end of the party's 5-year tenure. Among these has been the Patriotic Front PF, and now other opposition political parties, among them United Prosperous and Peaceful Zambia, UPPZ. UPPZ Secretary General Kondwani Sakala, in an interview, has accused the current administration of being slow in implementing most of its policies.
If they go the way I'm seeing them moving, they'll mess up with themselves and they'll mess up with the country. So all in all, we are saying Zambia needs the opposition to be governed properly. Because you can't just have a government which speaks everything is right, we are praising everything. They will go outside the way. We need the opposition in the good governance. I see them failing to fulfill their promises. I see them failing to deal with the critical issues that they promised the Zambian people. And it's a high time that right now they move faster than the pace they are moving. Because you will see them doing nothing in the next 4 years remaining.
Meanwhile, the Republican Progressive Party, RPP, a United Party for National Development, UPND alliance partner, has described the criticisms within 1 year as unfair. RPP acting president Cassius Akapelwa was speaking to Camnet News.
The opposition thinks it's magic. Running a government, it's a process. And where we're headed to, the future is so bright. Let the citizens of this country be patient enough, and these processes soon, they shall have a ripple, they shall get down and trickle down to the Zambian people. So suffice to say, we're basically saying, let us criticize the government objectively. To expect too much from the government that is running the system systematically is a process. So for now, what I can urge our colleagues is to take a backseat. As they criticize, they should be more objective than creating unnecessary rantings. Expectations
from the current administration are high, as it termed itself a new dawn government, which was to bring positive change to the country. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Zambia's Republican President Hakainde Hichilema has implored some local authorities against sabotaging the government to please the opposition Patriotic Front. Speaking during a local government meeting at the Mulungushi International Conference Center, The head of state has maintained that the PF would not bounce back to power. President Hichilema says the local authorities need to work together regardless of their political inclination in order to effectively serve the people of Zambia through enhanced service provision. More in this report.
Local governments must establish, maintain roads, bridges, ferries, water courses, street lighting and public transport, as well as provide firefighting and prevention, including environmental health services. But over the years, service provision has been below the people's expectations. Tuesday, 16th August 2022, Zambia's Republican President Hakainde Hichilema addressed local authorities at Mulungushi International Conference Center. The head of state cautioned some local authorities against sabotaging the government to please the opposition patriotic front.
There's nothing saying I supported PF, I supported the other parties, I supported UPND. No, serving the people is not a party allegiance. If you still want to give your allegiance to those that you supported and they didn't win an election, you are doing a disservice to yourself. Last time here I was saying, there are some of you who believe Ale Bwelelap. Azankala Party. Azankala Party. Hey, Azankala Party. Kapena chipuna cha minister. Azankala Party. Muzavo mere kupasa chipuna cha muntu. Anaononga economy manja bwelepo ankale party abuna uchita chani.
President Hichilema also underscored the need for unity of purpose and working together regardless of one's political affiliation. He called on local authorities to depart from business as usual by improving service provision in all areas.
Mistake. People are building over water lines, sewer lines. People are building. Who gave them the authority to build over sewer lines? You are done. The late President Banda will say, Nibani abo, Nibani. Where were you? On the roads in Mandevu, Minister. We have a nation in Mandevu, isn't it? Where people are building right on the road. Right on the road. And if a pregnant mother has a bridge, child is a bridge, you want to evacuate her to a clinic, you can't drive the ambulance there.
The president further highlighted that he will not tolerate any shortcomings on the part of councils and implored district commissioners, mayors and members of parliament to work together and deliver to the people's expectations.
Where I was born, we were brought up to talk direct language, not double speech. You're telling people this, in the night you are whispering something else. No, straight language. Get to know each other. Who is the president? What is his character? What are his values? Who is the mayor? Who is the... Because it's important to work together properly that way. Get to know each other. Get to know each other. So we need each other. Finish. Rates should be fair and affordable. You want to collect revenue, the rates must be fair and affordable.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Ministry of Information and Media Director spokesperson Tawo Kawana has appealed to the business community to positively respond to the good performance of the kwacha by reducing the prices of goods and services. The kwacha has been trading between 15 and 16 kwacha against $1 United States dollar, and the Monetary Policy Committee at its May 16 to 17, 2022 meeting decided to maintain the monetary policy rate at 9.0%. And Mr. Kawana is impressed that the banking sector is responding by working toward reducing lending rates. Mr. Kawana has also hailed some chain stores for making efforts to ensure that consumers start benefiting through the reduction of goods. He says government is working hard to make the business environment conducive. Hence, it is vital that the business community transfers the benefits through price reduction to the people.
However, because we are an import-oriented country, therefore, we use Forex to import what we import. And if the exchange rate is controlled, it is automatic that the prices will begin to go down in accordance with the rate of the exchange. And therefore, now that we have seen that the kwacha is becoming stronger, the business is expected to respond accordingly. You have already seen the ShopRite announcing that they are engaging their suppliers in order to see a reduction in goods and commodities in their chain stores to come down. You have already seen some banks have already started reducing their lending rates. All this is in response to what the government has done by making sure that they get hold of the fundamentals and put them in proper place. So it is our intention now to appeal to the rest of the businesses to stop being greedy. You respond accordingly, the same way you respond when the exchange rate increases. You quickly respond by bringing in place expensive prices. You raise up your prices and say no because of the exchange rate. The same way that the exchange rate has gone down, we expect that you also respond quickly by reducing. We have already cited ShopRite and other banks, and now we'll take the opportunity, for example, to ask institutions such as MultiChoice. MultiChoice, you know that every time they increase, they will tell you that because of the dollar, which has become expensive, they increase their subscription for DSTV. But now that it has gone down, let's also see some benefit accrue to the people of Zambia so that they begin to enjoy the DSTV that their colleagues in neighboring countries are enjoying, because clearly it is expensive.
The Japanese ambassador to Zambia, Mizuchi Ryuta, has appealed to the Zambian government to follow up on the findings of the KABWE Mine Pollution Amelioration Initiative Kampai project in order to tackle the pollution issue. Speaking at the final symposium in Lusaka Tuesday, the ambassador says the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, and the University of Zambia have since 2016 been studying the lead pollution in KABWE, and that the findings have been made available to the government of Zambia. Meanwhile, Minister of Education Douglas Yakalima says government will review all the recommendations that have been made in the JICA projects to ensure that the lead contamination in KABWE is brought under control. More in this report.
In Central Province is known as one of the most polluted places on earth as a result of the long history of lead and zinc mining. To fully understand the impact of the lead contamination, scientists from Hokkaido University in Japan and the University of Zambia had since 2016 embarked on a project called KABWE Mine Pollution Amelioration Initiative Kampai to research on the effect of the contamination and to make several recommendations to the Zambian government on how the pollution can be dealt with going forward. And speaking at the final symposium held in Lusaka Tuesday, Japanese ambassador to Zambia Mizuchi Ryuta says he is hopeful that the recommendations that have been made in the Kampai project will be adopted by the Zambian government.
To request the Zambian government to make a follow-up on this outcome, including something like the risks of contamination of human health and the risks of social economy, or the environmental remediation methods that should be established, and also policy recommendations to the Zambian government.
And speaking at the same event, Minister of Education Douglas Yakalima thanked the Japanese government for the help it has been rendering to the Zambian government and has assured that the government will study the findings of the report in order to improve the lives of the people of KABWE.
The KABWE project, it has just been our senses for a long time about lead poisoning. No structured, if you like, research has been conducted up until today, but we now know this. And I want everybody to be informed about the outcomes. You can normally do certain interventions if you know where the problem really lies.
Meanwhile, Japan International Cooperation Agency JICA has also added their voice on the matter and says such kind of pollution should be avoided in the future.
University ZAMBIAN and practicing safety. So that's we right for the World Bank to conduct prevention by using Kampai's recommendation method.
Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Lusaka Principal Magistrate Jennifer Abwalia, who is among magistrates transferred out of Lusaka, has reallocated the case in which former Foreign Affairs Minister Joseph Malangi and former Secretary to the Treasury Fredson Yamba is facing corruption-related charges. When the matter came up before court Tuesday, Magistrate Stanford Ngobola reallocated the case on behalf of the Magistrate Walia, who was not before court. In this case, Mr. Malangi is jointly charged with former Secretary to the Treasury Fredson Yamba with 10 counts of being in possession of property reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime and willful failure to comply with procedure as regard to the buying of property in Turkey for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. More in this report.
The alleged corruption-related case that former Foreign Affairs Minister Joseph Malangi and former Secretary to the Treasury Fredson Yamba are facing before the Economic Financial Crimes Court has been sent to the Chief Resident Magistrate for reallocation following the transfer of the presiding magistrate Jennifer Walia to another district. The duo, who appeared before Lusaka Magistrate Court Tuesday morning, were told to come on Friday this week for reallocation of their case on ground that the magistrate who was handling their case could not proceed to do so, as she was among the list of magistrates that have been sent to work in other districts. In this case, the duo is facing 10 counts of being in possession of property reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime and willful failure to comply with procedure as regards to the purchase of property for the ministry in Turkey. Among the 10 counts, the former Secretary to the Treasury, Mr. Yamba, is only facing 2 counts, while the rest have been slapped on Mr. Malangi. In the first count, Mr. Yamba is accused of allocating and authorizing the transfer of over 100 million kwacha to the Zambian mission account in Turkey for the procurement of real estate without following the law. And in the second count, he is accused of allocating and authorizing the transfer of 45.8 million kwacha to the said Zambian mission account, while the former Foreign Affairs Minister, Mr. Joseph Malangi, is accused of being in possession of an helicopter, Gibson Royal Hotel, also believed to be proceeds of crime. The charges that the state accuses him of are contrary to Section 71(1) of the Forfeiture of Proceeds of Crime Act number 19 of 2010 of the laws of Zambia. Miriam Kaiba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
This is Camnet Television News. We take our first break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
It's census time. The 2022 Census of Population and Housing will be conducted from 18th August to 14th September 2022. The census collects a lot of data for use in various aspects of social and economic planning for the country. We are all required to participate in the census by being counted. You will be counted from your usual dwelling place by a census enumerator. Please receive and cooperate with the census enumerator and provide the required information when you will be visited. Your responses to the census questions will be treated with strict confidentiality and will be used for statistical purposes only.
Hi, I'm coming to count you.
Because everyone counts! This message is brought to you by the Zambia Statistics Agency with support from the UNFPA.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
We continue with the news. A state witness has testified before the Economic Financial Crimes Court that there was no record system to show that Charles Loyona, a senior accountant at the Ministry of Finance who is accused of possessing the infamous 51 houses, obtained a loan from their institution. Thomas Kamunu, an assistant IT and data management officer at Credit Reference Bureau, trading as TransUnion narrated that the said information was reviewed following a request by Anti-Corruption Commission officers. This is in a case in which Charles Loyana and his wife Susan Loyana are charged with concealing and being in possession of properties suspected to be proceeds of crime amounting to about 37.9 million kwacha. More in this report.
Several witnesses have continued being brought forth by the state to testify in the case of the infamous 51 houses in which the state recently seized from a Lusaka Cup on allegation that they are linked to being proceeds of crime. Tuesday morning, a state witness who appeared before Lusaka Magistrate Court testified that their institution system revealed that Mr. Charles Loyana, a senior accountant at the Ministry of Finance who is accused of owing the property said to be proceeds of crime, had never obtained any loan from the institution. Thomas Kamuno, an assistant IT and data management officer at Credit Reference Bureau Trading as TransUnion, narrated that the said information was received following a request by the Anti-Corruption Commission officers in November 2020. Meanwhile, the state witness said when he checked in the system for the second accused person's details, Susan Loyana, he found that it was linked to another person. In this matter, Mr. Loyana and his wife are accused of illegally obtaining the said infamous 51 houses which are located in Talala area that made headlines in 2019. The couple have denied the allegations before court. This is in a matter in which Mr. Charles Loyana and his wife Susan Loyana are charged with concealing and being in possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime amounting to 37.9 million kwacha. Charles Loyana is senior accountant at the Ministry of Finance, and his wife Susan Loyana, an accountant at the Ministry of Works and Supply, are facing 2 counts of corrupt practices involving concealment and possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime. The matter comes up in September for continued trial. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Director of Public Prosecutions has appealed against the Ndola Magistrates Court decision to give a lesser sentence to former Zampost Postmaster General Macpherson Chanda and others. According to an appeal filed before the High Court, the state argues that the Ndola Magistrate Kaunda Sakawanda erred in law when he failed to follow sentencing principles and arrived at a lenient sentence that does not reflect the seriousness of the offense. Recently, the lower court sentenced Mr. Chanda with 2 former Zampost directors, Best Mwaichi and Isaac Kamwimba, to 2 years imprisonment after it found them guilty of corrupt practices involving over 300 million kwacha. The magistrate has also ordered the Attorney General to recover on behalf of the state the 335 million kwacha social cash transfer funds which the 3 unlawfully diverted. Government is changing the narrative of livestock farmers taking the rearing of cattle as a tradition but a viable business to improve the people's livelihoods. Minister of Fisheries and Livestock Makozo Chikote said the New Dawn government is aware that farmers have for a long time fallen victim to being price takers, not understanding the pricing methods of their animals. Mr. Chikote said his government will help farmers know the true value of their livestock in line with the government policy on making the livestock sector an attractive and viable business. And the Solidaridad Southern Africa Country Director Sheila Garakara said her organization has developed a live cattle grading mobile application to understand the grading of meat. Ms. Garakara said her organization developed a cattle grading mobile application and digitized the system to make the lives of farmers better in all aspects. The duo was speaking during the launch of a livestock grading mobile application in Itebe Agricultural Camp in Mazabuka.
Government is changing the narrative of livestock farmers taking the rearing of cattle as a tradition but a viable business to improve their livelihoods. Minister of Fisheries and Livestock Makozo Chikote said the New Dawn government is aware that farmers have for a long time fallen victim to being price takers, not understanding the pricing methods of their animals. Mr. Chikote said his government will help farmers know the value of their livestock, and in line with government policy on making the livestock sector an attractive and viable business.
The leaders we have to leave behind to show this country, to convince the president, is that our industry, our sector, is a more powerful sector which can change the narratives of this country economically. Economically, we are able even to create jobs.
And Solidaridad Southern Africa Country Director, Shera Garakara, said her organization has developed a live cattle grading mobile application to understand the grading of meat.
Smallholder farmers have always been price takers, but with the help of the cattle grading app, they can now confidently negotiate better prices for their animals. This automatically means an increase in their income, which they can pump back into their cattle farming enterprises, thereby growing their operation.
Davis Mwemba, who is a senior headman in Chief Manachingwara's chiefdom, praised the New Dawn government for delivering on their promises.
Our New Dawn government is a government that is working. Therefore, to all our concerns, the government will attend to them.
The trio was speaking during the launch of a livestock grading mobile application in Itebe Agriculture Camp in Mazaboka. Reporting, Lawrence Kabutu in Mazaboka.
Pupils at Mwanjawanto Day Secondary School in Petauke District will no longer have to walk long distances to and from school or stay in makeshift dormitories after the construction and the improvement of the boys and girls dormitories at the school respectively at the cost of 200,000 kwacha. The construction works of the dormitories is the initiative of Mwanjawanto Children's Hope Foundation, an organization comprised of former pupils of Mwanjawanto School with the motivation of helping the school improve the learning environment. Mwanjawanto Children's Hope Foundation Board Chairperson Dr. Dennis Mwanza says the development will encourage learners to fully concentrate in school and reduce on dropout rates, among other benefits.
Infrastructure development is one of the crucial elements of learning environments in schools that facilitates better instruction, improves pupils' learning outcomes, and reduces dropout rates, among other benefits. Infrastructure development is one of the crucial elements of learning environments in schools that facilitates better instruction, improves pupils' learning outcomes, and reduces dropout rates, among other benefits. It is also vital for the future of the country's development, as the young people who need support today are potential employees and leaders of tomorrow. In KABWE constituency of Petauke District in Eastern Province, the Mwanjabantu Children's Hope Foundation, comprising of former pupils of Mwanjabantu School, has constructed and handed over a fully furnished boys' dormitory, improved the girls' dormitory with waterborne ablution block, and donated 2 database projectors at Mwanjabantu Day Secondary School at a cost of 200,000 kwacha. Mwanjabantu Children's Hope Foundation Board Chairperson Dr. Dennis Mwanza, who is also a former pupil at Mwanjabantu School, handed over the infrastructure to government.
Our own would not have done all this, and it is all the cooperation and the support and basically agreement even by the school and the PT administration, the chieftainess. The chieftainess were always briefing her whatever we were doing, and then of course the debts.
Petauke District Commissioner Martha Mlinga received the investment on behalf of government.
And former Mwanjabantu nisaote mwapa siku ya lero paichichitukuko chimwatiletera pano pa skulu ya Mwanjabantu sote mwakutilero mwatipasa madeka mabedi yokwanira 18 mwatipasa mamatress yokwanira 51 mulioperelea papeka tufunika kusebenzera pamozi mapartners na boma tikachitateto ndiye kuti kuno kwa Mwanjabantu muna Petauke District titukuke.
KABWE Constituency Member of Parliament Dr. Aaron Mwanza was represented by Simon Banda.
Constituency ya KABWE ni constituency mozi mama constituency wala aliye chitukuko osalira alikuvuli pambali ya chitukuko.
Setio atindi note mwangako mubungwe ya mwanja wantu yakwanisha kuti ya mangako madomitalis na zonse za chita pano pasukulu.
Ananias Chirwa is Chieftainess Mwanjavantu's representative.
Chalo chikuti chumuya mikirani ngako Adenes Mwanza na guru yanu pachitukuko chamwatiletera uko chatuona na meso.
It is hoped that the guest star which has been extended to Mwanjavantu Day Secondary School will turn out to be a sure investment in the future of young people who would have attained their education from Mwanjavantu School and become employees in various industries and be able to contribute to national development. Hilda Msonda in Petauke District.
We'll take a break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
It's census time. The 2022 Census of Population and Housing will be conducted from 18th August to 14th September 2022. The census collects a lot of data for use in various aspects of social and economic planning for the country. We are all required to participate in the census by being counted. You will be counted from your usual dwelling place by a census enumerator. Please receive and cooperate with the census enumerator and provide the required information when you will be visited. Your responses to the census questions will be treated with strict confidentiality and will be used for statistical purposes only.
Hi, I'm coming to count you.
Because everyone counts.
This message is brought to you by the Zambia Statistics Agency with support from the UNFPA.
In international news, Kenyan opposition figure Raila Odinga said he would challenge the results of the close presidential election with all legal options after Deputy President William Ruto was declared the winner. Odinga said what was witnessed Monday is a travesty and a blatant disregard of the Constitution. He said he will pursue all legal and constitutional options available to his party. The announcement brings further uncertainty to a country where last Tuesday's poll was widely regarded as the most peaceful. East Africa's most stable democracy now faces weeks of challenges and the possibility that the Supreme Court will order a new election. Already, religious and other leaders have called for calm in a country that has already seen deadly post-election violence. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
Kenya's defeated presidential candidate Raila Odinga rejected the results of last week's elections that ended with the victory of his rival, Deputy President William Ruto. Controversy surrounded the announcement of the results, with 4 out of 7 senior election officials disowning the results. Speaking at the press conference, Odinga described the results as a blatant disregard for the Kenyan constitution.
What we saw yesterday was a travesty and a blatant disregard of the constitution and the laws of Kenya by Mr. Chebukati and a minority of IEBC commissioners. The law is clear on the role of the chairperson of the IEBC. The law does not vest in the chairperson the powers of a dictator to rule the IEBC unilaterally.
The long-time opposition figure and 5-time presidential candidate vowed to continue all legal routes in order to challenge the results. The electoral race was close, with William Ruto obtaining just over 50% of the vote against almost 49% for Raila Odinga.
South Africa's coal sales to Europe rose eightfold during the first 6 months of 2022 compared with last year as demand for the fossil fuel surged ahead of a ban on Russian coal. This is according to Thungela Resources, a South Africa-based thermal coal exporter. The European Union banned Russian coal imports in response to the invasion of Ukraine as part of sanctions in April. Ahead of the ban, European countries which previously imported 45% of their coal from Russia started to source the fossil fuel from other countries, including Colombia, Australia, and the United States, and also South Africa. Thungela, a leading South African coal exporter and part of a consortium which owns Africa's largest coal export facility, says Europe was competing with Asia for South African coal. Among European countries, chiefly the Netherlands, Germany, Poland, Denmark, France, Italy, and Ukraine, were importing growing quantities of coal from South Africa. A calm Tuesday morning, a day after Deputy President William Ruto was declared the winner of Kenya's narrow presidential election over long-time opposition figure Raila Odinga. But if there is anything clear on this day, it is that the last has not been heard of the votes closely watched in the East African nation. Those who have closed are in fear, but I urge them to open their shops because there is nothing going on. The president has already been chosen and we must accept the results. There were protests by Raila Odinga's supporters in some cities Monday night after chaos around the declaration of the winner. People are worried, and that is why they are not in town. All these shops are usually open by 6 a.m. and they are yet to be opened. They want to know how the situation is first. Odinga's campaign had expected victory after the outgoing president, in a political twist, backed his former rival instead of his own deputy president, William Ruto.
It's now time for sports news. Chess Federation of Zambia Vice President Leslie Chikose has hinted on the federation's desire to see to it that chess becomes an active sport in schools. In an interview, Chikose, who traveled with the players to India to participate in the 2022 prestigious competition, says International Chess Federation Zambia performed exceptionally well, but hoped that many will come on board, join the sport and make the country proud. He explains that chess has many benefits, among them the ability to be calm, disciplined, and think rationally, an attribute that is good for coexistence. The Zambia chess national team arrived from India last week, where they participated in the 2022 prestigious competition International Chess Federation. The tournament, which was the 44th World Chess Olympiad, had around 2,000 participants from over 180 countries, who battled it out for the top prize, with Zambia earning a World Cup qualification slated for next year after a tremendous performance, and occupied 9th position among the countries that participated.
From the chess tournament that we had, we also had the FIDE Congress. And when we had the FIDE Congress, of course, one of the things that we talked about was issues in regard to children participation, chess, the youth's involvement into chess. And the robust program that is supposed to start immediately is chess in schools. We are supposed to now get into the schools. We are supposed to have a lot of meetings with the Ministry of Education to see how we can add chess to the curriculum. And also, in that meeting where we had with the World Chess President FIDE Akadi, we had the members of the ministry that committed themselves that they were going to take it upon themselves to have a conversation with the Ministry of Sport, of Education, to try and bring sport, chess into the school's curriculum. I think that is progressive. the attributes of chess itself is very good for chess, for the IQ of children. The ability to calculate, to plan, to be calm, to be patient is a very important component that we cannot, we need to inculcate into the chess players.
On that chess note, we come to the end of tonight's news. But before we go, the headlines once again. UPND risks failing to fulfill its promises due to over-planning, charges opposition UPPZ. President Hakainde Hichilema cautions local authorities against sabotaging government. Japanese ambassador urges the Zambian government to tackle KABWE mining pollution. And in international news, RAILA ODINGA calls Kenya's election result a parody. In sports news, Chess Federation of Zambia to ensure chess is active in schools. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day, which is coming from 2 Corinthians 7, verse 1. Since we have these promises, dear friends, let us purify ourselves from everything that contaminates body and spirit, perfecting holiness out of reverence for God. Thank you once again for watching the news. My name is Jeffrey Siambo. Good night.